Jeff is our training rep, right? And I can tell you, when we went through our EOS process, our 2-day thing, one of our strengths that we have that nobody else has in our area is Jeff Bennington, right? So I mean, that was literally one of our strengths. So he's really good at what he does. He really cares about his customers, moving things forward. And I seen on TikTok the other day, he was top sales, like 4 million in sales or something last year. You were turning in your seat.
Oh,
yeah. So, I like one of his TikToks. Now his TikToks come up every time Tim and Chad singing Kumbaya or something. So, guys, but that's who Jeff is. Now, Jeff started a thing called HVAC Animation. I'm sure you've seen me share the videos out in the group when he sends them along. Just a hell of a nice guy, and we're glad that he's here to go over his, what's it called?
Mindset training.
Mindset training. It's all about the mind, right? So, with no further, it's all yours, Jeff.
Okay, thanks. Okay, you guys remember the last time I was here? We didn't have this big of a group, so I know not all of you were, but we did 5-star customer service training. And somewhere during that training, throughout, we were talking about neural pathways, like why we do the things we do, kind of the habits and how your brain works. And you learn something when you're young, and you just keep repeating the same thing. And those are usually started by the time you're 7 years old, right? You guys remember that? Okay. Well, when we were talking about that, I also asked some questions. I asked, how many people would like to have $10,000? And everyone was like, oh. And then how about 20? How about 50? How about 100? How about 200,000? And the hands were up, and the higher I got, the hands started getting a little bit more hesitant. And I got to the point of $1 million. Now, after we did that, we realized, like we went through some of the different things of what you think about wealthy people, the rich kids. And some of the things that go through our heads is, has everything, spoiled, and then maybe messages that you were given from your parents, like rich bastard, right? And so I asked the question, why would you want to become something that you despise or don't respect? So after that, I said, well, who would be interested in taking that to the next step? This is the next step. So when I spoke on that 5-star training, I was right in the process of getting the HVAC Millionaire Mindset book published. So some of you guys have already had it. I don't know if you've read it or not, but this is going to be like, I would say, a good 5 years of personal development for me, crunched together in an hour to hour and a half. It's going to be a good portion of that book, minus a lot of details, crunched together in an hour and a half. So it's a lot of information. And so I hope you guys are patient with that. But here's what I'm here for. I'm here not for anyone that hears what I'm saying and maybe thinks, it's kind of silly, doesn't believe it's possible, or somebody that's pessimistic about the message. If you feel that way, that's okay, because by the time I'm done, you might change. If you don't, it's okay, because you're not the person I'm here for. I'm here for the one person that latches on to this message and it changes their life. And I don't know who that is. That could be any one of you. Hopefully it's more. It's great having a big audience, because that means my chances go up of impacting somebody's life. So, just like sales, 1 out of 100 hits, great. Move on through 99, because I'm going to get another one. So that's how I feel about that. So apparently I got to back up. So what we're going to talk about today is, why is it in our mind we have these things that we want, but we get tripped over getting it? Very simple question. How many want 50,000? How many have 50,000? How many want 200,000? How many have it? Why not? That's what we're going to get into today. What we're going to talk about revolves around this right here. And it's called a poverty mindset. And it's desire for something. If anyone read the book, do you know what it is? Nobody read the book? Okay. Desire for something better, obstructed by limiting beliefs. And the reason I wrote that book, and the reason why I have this statement as a truth, even though some people will argue it, and some people will maybe even resent seeing that, with all the dealers that I have, I've had 30. I've weaned it down to about 21 for this year. And all the account managers that I work with, we all see the same pattern, and it's in every heating and cooling company. And that pattern looks like this. I didn't leave myself enough room. The pattern is HVAC company creates a process, and it's great because I know you guys talk about sales processes and things like that. There's a process, gets in place, technicians do the process, their incomes increase, average tickets increase, and 2 or 3 months later, it goes like this. And that continues until there's another motivating thing. They bring in another trainer, they do ride-alongs, repeat that process, and the same thing happens. The company starts making more money, average ticket goes up, the service tech starts making more money, and installers, by the way, starts making more money, and then after a while it trails off. Does this familiar? Has anyone experienced this here or in another company? Okay. So, why? Any ideas?
Motivation.
Okay. Any other ideas?
Get comfortable.
Get comfortable. Okay.
Fall back into a routine.
Okay. Okay. More? Okay. There's truth to all of that. The get comfortable, definitely, and fall back into routine, definitely. So think about it like this. They do well, it comes down. Another round, everyone does well, it comes back down. But yet, at the end of the year, a technician wants to go to the boss, or an installer wants to go to the boss and say, hey, I've been here for 6 months or a year. Can I get another $1 an hour? And yet this happens. How much do you suspect an income increases when this happens? $200 or $300 a week? Can a technician, in these moments when things start going well, can they start earning $200, $300 or more a week? Have you seen that? If you've seen that or experienced it, raise your hand. Okay. And yet it does this. And yet at the end of the year, we say, can I have $1 more? What's $200 or $300 a week divided by 40 hours? It's more like $300. You're talking $750 an hour or more. And this $200 or $300, this is the third time I've done this particular class. What I've heard is that's easy. $200 or $300 is easy. So what I wanted to do when I started noticing this pattern over and over and talking to the other account managers that I work with, and they see the exact same pattern. So I could just do the little Google drop person at any heating and cooling company and probably see the same thing. So what I want to help you guys do today is discover how to get out of that. Why is that so hard? Because it is hard. It's emotionally hard because you want something better. You're fighting limiting beliefs. And then this. What's happening, the reason it gets hard, the reason why it's emotionally exhausting to keep that going over and over and over, except for a few. There's always somebody in a group. The larger the group, there's some outlier who they bought into that and they kept going. And it does happen. I'm not saying it never happens. Is what we're doing is you're fighting. This is embarrassing. You're fighting what's possible because it's unbelievable. What I mean is unbelievable is when you start doing this and it works, and then you get tired of fighting your perceptions of what it means to have more money, when you get tired of feeling like you have to sell, when actually the process is not selling, the process is just offering. That's what I see. I don't even know your process. I just in general know when good companies like this give their people a process to follow, it is more about just offering. Like, okay, here, typical scenario, correct me if I'm wrong, is you go, walk in the door, you do all your normal like engagement process with the customer, and then you go and you troubleshoot, you find the problem, and then you start presenting an offering. Am I right so far? As far as sequence? So I can fix this today. I also have some options, maybe do this, do that, whatever it is, because every house is different, unique. There may be some things that can make that system better than it was before I got here. Here, you let me know. What would you like to do? Well, we'd like you to go ahead and fix it. I'll think on the rest of it. Okay, no problem. Didn't have to sell anything. I just said, here's what we do. The process is 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, you can only do that for so long because, not because that process was hard, is because when this starts happening, when we have a poverty mindset, our brain gets exhausted with it. Our brain doesn't think. It doesn't think for some reason, subconsciously often, that extra is something I'm worth. They don't think I'm worth that. Because you start tallying that up, you can be a $40,000 tech and instantaneously be $80,000. And what it is, it's kind of like the Millionaire Syndrome. When you hear about somebody wins Powerball, they've done a lot of studies on Powerball winners. They've done a lot of studies on millionaires, and we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that I've learned in the books that I've read on that. Powerball winners, lottery winners, same thing. You give them money, a couple of years, boom. But they're no different than you and I. It's the same stuff. We're fighting what's possible because it's unbelievable. So as we get into this stuff, just know this. All of us think about stuff in a different way. And the thing that drives our thinking is we either have external or internal locus of control. And we're all in this range, okay? External means that when you look at your life, you see things on the outside as obstacles. And you play a blame game. Well, it's this. Well, I'm in this situation because of that. Or this happened to me, therefore it's that. Internal says, well, this happened, so how do I respond? Internal says, yes, I came from this particular circumstance, but going forward, what do I need to do to be differently? Whereas if two people, same situation, external locus control will start digging a moat around them, and it's like, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Internal, they start filling the moat and saying, all this stuff happened, how do I get over it? Does that make sense? And we're all somewhere in between. So you're not one or the other. You know if somebody's this. Because you're like, man, that's awesome. That's a worthy pursuit to become someone like that. And when you see someone like this, you're like Debbie Downer, nothing but complaints, nothing but blaming everybody but themselves. I'm not saying that everything is, I'm not saying that there's not things in life that happen to people that you couldn't say that happened because of a particular person. But if you lean on that the rest of your life, it just develops a pattern of thinking externally instead of ever doing internally. So when we discuss some different things over here, we're going to be looking at the internal locus control, which is defined as taking 100% responsibility for your life, your actions, your words, your choices. Think of all the times in your life where just relationships are easy, because I know I've done this 1,000 times. Someone says something, I feel an emotion, and I feel like you made me feel that way. Right? That's just typical. We do this all the time. Okay? So, but if I do that, I don't ever stop and think, okay, they said something, it's hurtful. What can I do in this situation to help? Okay? So, one thing we know about people that are highly successful is they lean more on an internal locus of control. They take greater responsibility for their life choices, decisions, words, actions, and those on the external tend to be look less at themselves and more out at external reasons why they're in the condition that they're in. Okay? It's just a fact. This is a place to be if you want your life to be different, if you want something better. Okay. So, overall, what I'm hoping to accomplish is, with that in mind, I want to show you guys how you could sustain this and the process that it takes for your mindset to shift and change out of that. And I'm not saying that anyone here specifically has it. I'm just saying it's pretty common in the industry. How to get out of a poverty mindset, stop limiting what's possible for you, and move forward and just get the success that you want. That's the goal. And we're going to come down to some numbers, and I'm going to show you what is possible for anybody here. And I've been on the other side of that table sitting with people as an installer. I was an installer for several years, wondering, is this who I am? Is this what I want to do? I enjoyed the work. It was neat tearing down a furnace, cleaning it up, putting in something new. It was very, very satisfying. But at that time in my life, you feel like, is this it? Is this all I got? When I was an installer, I didn't even have the confidence to think I could be a technician, because they always seemed more confident. They always seemed more powerful to me. I don't know how to say it, because I can't really go back to when I was 21 years old and know how I define that. But that's, looking back, I feel like that's how I felt. And which wasn't true, but I didn't know that then. And there's a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about that I wish I knew 30 years ago. I'm 52, so if I was 21 when I started, it's now 31 since I started as an HVAC installer. So, in order to get there, I need to tell you a little bit of my story of why I'm here talking to you guys and how I started as an HVAC installer. So, in 1991, I met Amber and started working for her dad that summer, and started working as an HVAC installer. And what did I do with my water? Mouth is getting really dry. And I worked for Rex Byers, her dad, for several years, and pretty much got to be an install manager. We're kind of like doing installs, training, doing the things that the little guys had to do, because I was always the littlest. Even though I was training, still had to get in the tight part of the attic. And so I did that for several years, and there was a point where I felt like, okay, I don't want to be pigeonholed as the son-in-law, because in Kokomo there was a couple other son-in-laws working for their father-in-law, and they had bad reputations. Like the business is starting to suffer because of the son-in-law. So at that point, I kind of left and went on my own and got into a pipe fitter apprenticeship. And through the years working as a pipe fitter, I also came and worked with the family business. Like that was cool. They needed help. I'd go in and help. Some years when construction was big, I was doing subcontracting for them. And then later, I ended up spending, I think, 3 years doing install quality inspections for them. So I've been in it for a long time. And then through that, I was still always in this position where I didn't feel like it was me. Like, I mean, if you've ever been, who's pipe fitter, plumbers here? Right. If you drop me on a new construction site and say, here, you're with the pipe fitters, even to this day, it's like, I don't fit here. I don't know what it was. Maybe because I was just small and squirrely, and many of them were big and bulky and just rough and tumble, and that wasn't me, but I didn't feel like that fit. So in 2006, I started working at a GM plant as a pipe fitter, which got a lot more troubleshooting, and I enjoyed that. And if you work in a position like that, like, did you ever have to work in a factory during some of that time?
We were at Lily's.
Okay. So just a variety, probably more new construction than troubleshooting, or a combination?
We did very little troubleshooting.
Okay. So when you're in that environment and you're doing troubleshooting, you have a lot of downtime. And they didn't care what you did with your downtime as long as it was safe. They knew where you were all the time, and wherever you were in the building, right? Because when there's a fire, they got to get you. So the other pipe fitters at that time were doing crossword puzzles or watching Netflix, or some people nowadays, they were doing video games because they just want you to be here, okay? So that's okay. So what I decided to do different is that just bothered me to just do something that was unproductive or nothing. So I started writing back then because there's just something in the back of my mind. What am I going to do? I got a lot of time. What am I going to do with it? So I started writing. Well, that writing, by 2009, I wrote my first book. It's called Killing the Giants. It's a conspiracy theory. Skilled Trades is the protagonist, and he kills all the rich people that's trying to, plot against everybody. And it sucked. And the reviews, you go to Amazon, look at it, poor writing skills, riddled with adjectives. And it's true, I was creative, but I wasn't a good writer. But here's what I did with that time that I had, was I went to work just as hard as I did as a pipe fitter, just as hard as I did installing furnaces, just as hard as I did when I was a kid shoveling snow, delivering newspapers, all that stuff. And you guys all have that work ethic. What I'm getting at is what I had going for me was the ability to work hard. So I said, okay, that's fine. It was hurtful at first, getting poor reviews like that it will be kind of over my head, you could say, for the rest of my life. But overcame that. Wrote, worked really hard, read books on reading, learned the art of writing. And I said read books on reading, but I meant read books on writing. Okay, learn the craft. By 2016, I was published, like actually published instead of self-published. That was my 10th book, and my wife and I created a website that had 43,000 subscribers. This is what I did with that time. And I'm not telling you any of that stuff to make you think, oh, wow, that's cool, he's good. Like, it has nothing to do with that, because what it has to do with what I learned during that time. And that's what I really want to share with you. Because what I did with that time and accomplished in that time, other people I was working with accomplished nothing more during the same time. They played video games, they did crossword puzzles, and they were right where they were. And there's nothing different about me than anybody here. If you're a technician, I wanted to be like you. I didn't even think I was smart enough. If you're an installer and you feel like, man, this is hard work, you're right. But you got some major skills to hard work. You can do really, there's no limits other than those that you put on yourself. And here's what I learned. And I can see this in retrospect because the last few years I've really been studying how do successful people think differently. What do they do differently? And the truth of it is, it's thinking. It's all what's in their head. It's all in your thoughts. Like, just carve a pie out of your life and just think, what are the kind of thoughts that I've had today? Like, you do this in your own mind. What are the things that I've had, the thoughts? Are they driving me towards what I want? Or are they just stirring the pot, keeping me right where I'm at? Think about that for yourself. Okay. So here's what I learned. I learned that highly successful people have 4 common traits, and actually a 5th, but the 5th kind of ties in with all 4. The number 1 is they have a definite purpose. And they have a definite purpose because it's what guides them. If you have a definite purpose, it's the thing that no matter what you're doing, no matter how hard your job is, you wake up in the morning with the energy and the capacity to get through the difficult stuff. But without it, you feel like this is pointless. What's the point of this? So it's not about, well, I need to go out and find my purpose because it's not this, what I'm doing here. That's not it at all. It's about look at your life and find a purpose in it. So I didn't start doing this till 2 years ago. And I started looking at my life and like, well, how can I make meaning out of this? How can I make it meaningful? And first, I'm going to pause. None of this has anything to do with the spiritual part of my life. Okay? I just want you guys to know that if anyone's like, well, you're pretty spiritually void. I mean, you got no purpose or meaning to your life. No. Spiritually and involved with my family and church and different things, that was a big part of my life. So I'm more talking about work and talking about the things that I didn't hear in that setting. Okay? So I looked at my life and said, considering what I believe spiritually, considering the kind of dad and husband that I want to be, what kind of purpose can I cement in my life? And so I started writing some down. This. No. And so now I got a list here. And my definite purpose is the reason I'm here, by the way. It's the reason why I've been going to Toastmasters every Tuesday for months to become a better speaker, is for this purpose. So that's what drives me to get better. It drives me to be a good account manager. And it's simply to help my why, my purpose, to help my family and customers get what they want and help as many people along the way. So that's mine. That's unique to me. And then I've got a whole list of other things that I start filling my mind with every day. The things that I want out of life. And so that's the whole reason. This right here is why I asked you to pause and think about it. Because most of us don't think about what we actually want, and we don't focus on the things that we want to shoot for. We just live in a cycle, repeating the same habits, right? We come right back to our comfort level, in spite of the fact that we desire something better for our lives. Is this ringing true for anybody, or am I the only person on an island that feels like this? There's truth to this. Okay, you're nodding your heads. Good. I'm going to pass this around. I'll share my life with you a little bit. So everything that I'm going to teach you today, I hope that, or again, at least for one of you, that you can see this stuff and hear what I'm telling you and know that there is a recipe for getting what you want out of life. It sometimes, depending on the obstacles that you've encountered, it may take you longer to work through it. You may have more work to do. You might have to take, who doesn't know, if I say neural pathways, who doesn't know what that means? Raise your hand. Everyone knows what the neural pathways are that we talked about? It's okay if you don't. I just want to know if I need to define it. You don't know what it means? Okay, real quick.
I don't know the way you described it, so.
Say what?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the way a neural pathway works is this is your brain. All right? From the time you are about 7 years old, you're given messages that basically solidify how you look at the world, people, and yourself. Okay? So let's say you grew up, I mean, this is an extreme, but I think everyone will understand. Parent says something mean to you, you get hurt, and you respond. Pattern. You get hurt, you respond. What happens is, in your brain, a certain neural pathway lights up. You hear it. That's the trigger. Your body responds biologically, and you get emotion. Maybe you'll lash out physically. Maybe you'll lash out verbally. But it's a repeating pattern over and over. Okay? That's the neural pathway. It lights up. And what happens is it's like taking electricity and putting it on wood, and it does this weird thing, and you do it over and over and over and starts carving. Okay? Or horse and buggy driving down a path. The rut in the road just gets deeper and deeper. Okay? That's a neural pathway in your brain. There's millions, billions, countless, and they can be restructured and they can be changed. And you can create new neural pathways. So all the things that are bringing you here can be changed. And over the last few years, I've changed a lot of this stuff. I did not come from a family where it's like parents are wonderful. I did not come from a family where we had a lot of money. We were middle, well, it depends on the season and my parents' progression through life, from lower class to middle upper class by the time we were done. And my parents were self-absorbed, and they weren't supportive, and therefore I didn't have any sense of direction. Okay? So no advantage here with me. And so when I learned that, and this is, by the way, the number one thing for people that are successful, a sense of purpose, a definite purpose in your life. So you guys got sample sheets here. There's the first sheet, which is the outline, and then there's the next sheet. This is a sample of what I go through every day. And I've got blanks for you guys. We'll pass those out later. But this is one way to brainwash yourself. Because it's what you got to do. Because how do you get a neural pathway? How do you get a trained response to the way you deal with life? It's brainwashing. It's the same thing. That's why the Nazis can come and brainwash a bunch of people, put message and message after message after message, and pretty soon these people are willing to kill innocent people because they think it's a good reason. It's brainwashing. That's all it is. So what happens here is you're just telling yourself the same message, reinforcing it. What I want to help you guys learn to do is how to tell yourself a different message. You live by the same story, you're going to get the same ending. You change the storyline, and you can have a different ending. But until you do that and believe it and go through it often enough, you won't change. And it starts with a definite purpose. So if you don't have a reason to change, if you don't have a reason to do something different with your life, you'll only get the same stuff. And there's a phrase, it says, what is it? You're planning to fail. If you don't plan, you're planning to fail. So without a definite purpose, where do you go? It's like put what do you call the thing around your head? Blindfold on your head, and spin me around and just push me forward. Honestly, that's how I felt like my life was. I met a girl. She was cute. We went on a date. Her dad had a business. I needed a job. I just landed there. Push me, spin me around, push me forward. I'm an installer, 7 years. Here we go. Great. But I didn't have any sense of purpose. Had I had a sense of purpose, I might not have been dealing with the inadequacies that I felt. And instead of seeing the possibilities working for my father-in-law, I had a sense of, well, I don't want anyone to think bad of me, because I'm the son-in-law. And today my father-in-law sold this business for over $2 million. I could have had a part of that if I was in it. But anyway, it starts with a sense of purpose, definite purpose. That's on your sheet, the first one with the red. The second thing that highly successful people have in common is they constantly are developing themselves, working on personal development and growing what they know. And I want to ask you a question. Has anyone worked for $5 an hour? There won't be that many of you, but if you have worked for $5 an hour, raise your hand. Sorry, it reveals your age. Yeah, okay. Let me ask you this. When you worked for $5 an hour, would have it been very interesting if overnight you could change your income to 10 and double it? Okay. How many here started work, like as you enter the workforce, we're making $10 an hour? Like I'm coming into the workforce around, give or take. $10. Okay. Is it possible, knowing then, that you can make 20? Possible? Okay. How many came in at 15 and are earning 30? Okay, now I'm getting to, you don't have to raise your hand, but do you get the point that it's possible? Do you think there's anyone in this community making $50 an hour, 100? Do you think there's anyone making $500 an hour? How much does somebody make in a year if they're earning $500 an hour? About $1 million. Yep. And the truth is, if they're making $1 million, 500, they're probably making 1.5, because most millionaires don't work less than 60 hours. And they work 6 days a week. That doesn't mean, oh, I got to be a workaholic if I want to be successful. No, but it does take work. Right. So, but they have a definite purpose, which gives them energy. They wouldn't work consistently for 60 hours if they didn't have a definite purpose, a place that they're going. They're constantly working on personal development. And the third thing is they have goals. How many have goals written down somewhere on anything? A goal for your life or finances? Let's see your hand. That's awesome. Personal goals? Okay, financial goals? Okay, awesome. Family goals? All that stuff? Okay, written down? That's awesome. So you can check off one of these. If you have goals, but you're not growing personally, it's going to be more difficult to hit those goals. If you're not learning, if you have a definite purpose, you have that meaning and that energy to pursue your goals, and you're developing yourself, you're making yourself capable of pursuing. If I were a $15 technician today, and someone said, you could double your income if you just learned these things, if you mastered these particular things, that I could put you on a job and I don't have to worry about helping you. You're going to troubleshoot it and you're going to fix it, and you can double your income because you invest in this. Is it possible to be a $30 or more technician? Okay, if I'm a $30 or more technician because of my knowledge base, is it then possible for me to get more and do this? And continue it. If this is $200, $300, $400 extra a week, and I've earned 30 by my knowledge base, and now I follow a process, and I earn extra on top of what I know, now 37, 40, and I'm not trying to put dollars into Jake's. I'm just showing where you can go. The more you learn, the more valuable you are. People think if I'm in the marketplace, the more time, the more I deserve. But that's not how that works. You get more because you become more valuable in the marketplace. All right? So value means helping the customer just have options. Value means being a more knowledgeable and skilled troubleshooter. Value means being a better communicator, being a better husband, a better father, a better being better at relationships, serving the community more. That's better. This is why I want to back up. Like, I talk about this stuff a lot, but when I talk about better, when I talk about developing and growing, I'm thinking the whole picture of yourself. Does that make sense? I don't want you to think it's just about money. The fourth thing that I learned is that successful people value your time. And you mentioned the TikTok thing, and it's like, I spend so little time on that, but I feel guilty for doing it because I think, how many people are just sitting there? They go from mine, then they go to another, and they go, because it's just so addicting. Yeah, and that, right, and that is brainwashing. But I guess my mindset was, if people are going to be there, I could at least put my message out there too a little bit. So, but time is so important. The things that I accomplished was because I made a different decision to do something different with my time. And people that are successful, it's the same thing. They make a different decision of what to do with their time. Now, there's things that you're obligated to. There's no question about that. But if you're all honest, you know there's time that you could do something to take your life to the next step. Or do something different to, instead of having like your bad habits, work on the bad habits to improve them. Or instead of waiting for somebody to make you a better technician, go and become a better technician. Education's practically free. I mean, it's practically free. And I will tell you, outside of maybe $100 on books this year, like, I've probably listened to 10 audiobooks this year, all for free, all on YouTube. Knowledge is free. There's no reason somebody couldn't say, this is what I want for my life, and go find it and keep learning everything that's free until they hit a place where they want something that costs something. And then that's just a choice. But there's no reason somebody couldn't get what they want. So we know the programs work because it always goes up and it always comes down. We know the process works because they give it to you. It's all in an iPad or whatever. Here, just go through and do this. It works because you see it everywhere. You know the customers buy because they buy. Somebody's doing the buying here. So the last thing to the equation, x plus y plus, well, this would be the customer plus, and this is the person. This is the technician. If he drops out, that drops. These are the things that can help you change that. And if you change it, you can change your life. And this is kind of where we're going. How are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good. This section here, for some of you, you've probably already seen stuff like this. Hopefully by now you have. There's not a person in this room that couldn't retire at a decent age with a lot of money. So you can go to nerdwallet.com. This is where I got them. So you can play around with it whenever you want. And by the way, I have all this in a screenshot. I'll give it to Jake and he'll send it to everybody. So you have all this in a little thing. Plus there's your outline. If you're 25 years old, making $40K, if you were to save 20%, and I picked 20% because if you're 25 years old, some of you could have families, some don't. You might have more of your income that you can do what you want with. 40K, save 20% of it. If you just put it in something that tracks the S&P 500, which for the last 100 years, on average, gains 9% a year, compounding. In 30 years, you'll have 1.5 million. If you can bump that to 25%, you have 1.85 million. You'd retire at 55 years old with 1.5 million. How much, wait, somebody get a calculator. How much is 20, well, let's just break this down, the 40K. Who's got a calculator? Who's going to be my mathematician? Got it? 40,000 times 0.2 divided by 52.
153.84.
153 bucks?
Yep.
Okay. If you're making 40K, how much effort does it take to get an extra $153 in spiffs and actually not even have to take from your current income? What are some of the things? What are some of the combinations?
15 VIPs.
How much? 15. And how many calls? I think we did this last time. How many calls do you get in a week? Like, what are your potential?
4 calls a day.
Yeah.
120.
Yep.
120 calls a week? Okay. So that's a fairly reasonable percentage. That's to get 153. If you're a service technician and you get 4-5 calls a day, and like, how difficult is it to come up with 153? Sell a couple extra products in the week? A couple upgrades? %25 is probably 175 a week. Do you have to work more hours to sell these things? I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. Not sell, to offer. Do you have to work more hours to offer it? No. You just go through a process. So with very little effort, other than a mind shift change, that I'm not screwing the customer, I'm just offering something to him and letting them make a choice. Here's what, if you're a technician, here's where the rubber meets the road. You go on a service call, inducer's bad, it doesn't matter if this is the right price or not. $750 and you're going to be out of there in 2 hours. This is a struggle for you because you're looking at, man, that might be close to what I bring home a week and I'm charging them. This is why you're looking at that customer and you're like, well, I don't want to offer that. I'm already struggling with my own concept of this, of how much we're charging that customer. But if you look at the numbers, of the $750, the company's lucky to make $75. This is just how much it takes to stay in business. And the average company, the average heating and cooling company, is making $35 to $40 in profit on that. So, what does that tell you? That's just you got to get out of that mindset because business costs more than what you think. It just costs more. All these people getting paid by the hour, can you imagine that weight of all that on you? And it's hard to make $75 off of this call. So if you can get yourself to think differently about money, get a definite purpose, start developing yourself, set specific goals like I want this, and you get those goals and you look at it and like, okay, this week, it's Monday, this week I want to earn another $400 because I want 300 to go here, and I want to take my wife out to dinner on Friday, and I'm not going to work more than 40 hours. I mean, just assuming, the regular, whatever the regular hours. And all I have to do is follow the plan and offer what the process says to offer. And don't be afraid of that, because when you offer, customers do it. It happens every time with every heating and cooling company. All you got to do is offer it. You don't have to be afraid that, well, they can't afford this, therefore they wouldn't want the extras. Therefore, I'm not going to offer the extras. You need to change your mind on what you think about money and the potential for your life. Because money is not about being greedy. Most millionaires, and I say most, 85% are self-made. Self-made. They are just like you, and they learned something that brought them to the next level. And they had to change the way they think about stuff and money. And if you don't change the way you think about it, you'll be right where you are every year asking for $1, $2 more an hour. When your potential is think differently, change the way your mind thinks. And you can have a whole lot more in a short period of time. And I'm passionate about it because I was in that seat. When I took that job, I was making, $550? When I married my boss's daughter, I got a raise. I got $650. And we lived in an apartment above a pizza place, and we saved $50 an hour. And my wife was beautiful enough that $50 a week, that $50 went to help through my education. So for the next 8 years, she helped me put me through school. The fifth thing is habits. If you're where you are in your life right now, no matter what it is, it's because you have habits and you repeat these habits, and unless you break out of any kind of habit, you're going to continue in whatever place you are. It's just the truth. Because this gets really comfortable. You like that feeling even though you're angry or you're sad or whatever. It lights up your brain when you respond to your daily things in life. How many have said to themselves, man, I hate it when I do that? Let me see your hand. How many have done stuff over and over and you're like, why do I keep doing that? Right? You're looking at your crying significant other and you're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, wait, that's just me, sorry. Get too personal. No, I know it's everybody. So people that are successful usually come to a point where they're like, that's it. Red line, drawing a line in the sand. I'm doing something different. And in the process, they develop a definite purpose. They start developing themselves consistently, never quitting their whole lives. They write down their goals and they get laser focused. Can you see how simple it is if you set a goal, break out of the fear, start building a mindset to get the things you want. Stop making excuses why you don't have the things you want. Write, what do I want? And that's what this sheet does. You guys get a blank one. Here, I'll just split them up and you guys share them. I don't even have fingernails to get this stuff passed out. You could just pass. These are blank, so you got a sample that kind of gives like some examples, some basic examples. Now you've got a blank one. And that blank one, make a copy before you write on it. Keep a clean copy. Print it every day. Let me see here. Can I look at yours for a second? Yep. Don't write on it without getting copies, because just for example, the part that it's highlighted, it says my why. And what's fun is you guys are going to do an exercise that's similar to this. So you'll kind of get that primed. You'll start getting in your head some of the stuff. This my why is your definite purpose. It's going to change. This year it might be something. Next year it might be something different. Okay? But it's going to be the driving thing that this is what's getting me up in the morning. My mode, I left that on there. My mode is when you read this and you start looking at that I take 100% responsibility for my life, my choices, my actions, my words, my thoughts, that will start etching into your brain, particularly if it's difficult for you to believe that. Because I know there's going to be people that are like, but I'm not responsible for this. And that comes back to just do it. Just read it. I take 100% responsibility. If you want to break out of where you are, you have to do something different. All right? Daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals. Start setting some of those for you. Today, like tomorrow, literally, if you're a service technician, I'm sorry I'm picking on service technicians, but if you're a call taker too, and you're like, today, I'm going to sell this, or I'm going to offer every customer, I don't care how I feel emotionally, I'm going to offer them the maintenance. I'm going to offer them 3 choices. Before I go and talk to the customer, I'm going to disregard how I feel about the cost, and I'm going to look at some different ways this system can be better than it was today. And I'm going to do that to everybody. So if you made that goal, guarantee you, consistently, if you do that on all your calls, because you set it as a goal, you'll see results. When you put it in front of you and you start seeing it in front of you, this is the whole point, by the way, of this paper. When you write something and your body is saying, I take responsibility for my life. Do you not see how that would impact the way your brain starts to think? When you see this every day, it starts to change your life. If you look at the sample that I have, the one where it's partially filled, personal, I've got the Toastmasters there. Right, this is part of a personal goal. This is why on Tuesday, when I don't feel like going back to Carmel at 7 o'clock at night, I still go. Okay, this has power. And if you've given the power of your life to your habits, to circumstance, this is a way for you to start taking it back. Okay? So I got a section for like year goals for family, personal, for your health, for your wealth, for community. And then the thing in purple that I am grateful for, this is huge, powerful. If you take a moment and you just think of 3 things that you're grateful for, just 3 things. Like your kids, your spouse, your whatever, the home that you live in, the country that you live in. You could go every day, you could cycle through, if you really think about it, you can cycle through things you're grateful for. Your state of mind will change. So if you wake up grumpy, and then you decide you're going to start thinking about things you're grateful for, your mind can't handle it. It can't be on this heavy down when you're thinking of you're grateful. Your brain won't do it. It will the scale will tip into a better state of mind because you're thinking of what you're grateful for. And then I got bigger place for bigger goals for you down there. So you guys can use that. Those, if you do that every day and develop the habit, you can literally transform your life because this is a proven pattern. You can disregard the pattern, that's fine, makes no difference to me. But if you do this over time, you're guaranteed results. Whatever those results are dependent on you. How many 1 year or less technicians do we have? Installer, technician, whatever. 1 year or less. A year from now, your life could be different if you do this. And that's true for everybody, but I'm using them as an example because you're just starting fresh. Okay? Here's the next example. 36 years old. If you're making $65K, you save 10%, 9% compounding year over year. In 26 years, you'd have $200,000. Sorry, $600,000. Would that impact your life even if you're 36 years old today? 26, that's 52 years old. Did anyone here walk in here thinking it's possible that by the time I'm 50, if you're assuming you're 36, thinking it's possible that you could have $600,000 banked, that continues to grow? Anyone? If you make this 10% into 20, it'll be 1.17 million in 26 years. That book that I wrote, the HVAC Millionaire Mindset, shows that you don't have to build a business worth $10 million to have to sell it and be dependent on the value of that. You can do it. Do you think an owner could save 20% of $40,000? I know a lot of owners that just keep chasing after this. I want to get my business to 5 million or 10 million, and then I'm going to sell it. But in the meantime, they've got nothing. But so you know, it's hard to run a business. A lot of times owners are not taking a paycheck week after week, paying out $5,000, $10,000 in payroll every week. It's just the reality because it's hard. But this is possible for every one of you. And when I started seeing that pattern, I started feeling like regret for myself that this was possible, but I didn't see it. And then I look with all the dealers I work with. Yeah. Okay. 2 minutes. Nerd Wallet, this is on your thing, your paper, so you don't have to remember that. Oh, by the way, in the top 5 millionaires in a 2020 study, the top 5, one of them is teachers. Doctors are not on that list. Technicians in Indiana, on average in 2020, $25 an hour. Put that in perspective. So if you say, yeah, but they're top 5 millionaires right here, averaging $19 an hour. Don't fight what's possible because it's unbelievable. Believe what's possible for you guys. I hope this was helpful. Was this helpful? I know it's intense, but I'm trying to change your life in an hour and a half. It's really hard to do. If it was helpful, let me just see your hands just so I know. Okay. Thank you. All right, thanks. Yeah.